One thing I learned very on is that there's always something to learn. With every failure, success, every single person, there's at least one thing you can learn from them. Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't have seen it as a loss had I met with anyone else.
All right, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Connections That Matter, where we share stories of Northern Colorado's best networkers and find out some of the connections that they've made that have led to their success. Today, we have a special episode. We're doing a partnership deep dive featuring a returning guest. We have Tim Jordan back on the show. And if you caught that previous episode, he shared an awesome story of how he met our other guest, Michael Weant. So, Michael and Tim, welcome to Connections That Matter.
Thanks for having us. Excited to be
Happy
here.
to be here.
Right on. Well, you guys look very branded in the Service Catalyst. So before we get to the faded Facebook post, share a little bit about what Service Catalyst is.
Yeah, so Service Catalyst is, that stage in business where you're working 60 hours a week and you still feel broke and just stacked up. And we are a pure mentorship community and education that's ridiculously accessible. It's only $70 a month. It's very active, ton of resources, and it helps you get past that quicker.
Cool. And then Michael and Tim, what are your roles within Service Catalyst?
Yeah, we're co-founders. So we my role is focused on the educational portion. So I'm not the only voice in the educational space, but I produce the majority of the educational content, and I host one of our events.
So I handle most of the operations and a lot of our marketing and social media. So we have a few courses, one in particular that I did for running ads, and then host an office hours once a week on Thursdays.
That office hours event is probably the secret sauce of the community so far. It's Thursday, noon to 1, MST. It's not just Colorado folks. There's people nationally. And it's about 30 minutes of a building education topic that honestly every business can relate to whatever the topic that is that week. And then 30 minutes of Q&A. The Q&A usually starts on that topic, but then can go wherever the members need. We have between 40 and 50 members now, usually 8 to 12 in office hours. And when I say Q&A, that's the real magic, is we're in there. Yeah. And we answer questions, but then you'll get 7 other perspectives on the same. You'll get Robin Baker's always in there. She's been on this podcast, I think. So you get an HR professional. There's all kinds of value in that pure back and forth.
Yeah, and especially when you're creating partnerships, if you're in an environment where it's safe to ask questions or you have true empathy for people who are understanding what you're going through because they're going through the same thing, there's some valuable place of learning, and it's a great breeding ground for trust and relationships. I've heard quite a few of your community collaborating with other parts of your community. So there must be something very intentional that you're doing that creates that team feel. Maybe share some of that secret sauce.
I think for me, what I see in the community is you've got a wide variety of business owners, different business sizes, different stages in business, and everyone has a piece that they've unlocked within their own business, and other people will ask questions, and they'll be able to bring that experience in and take people from 0 to 1 very quickly.
I also see it was intentionally built to be authentic. We are authentic guys. That's why we get along. And so it's not all the stuff I'm bringing to the table when I'm asking questions is good stuff. And I think that that gives permission to other people to show some chinks in the armor if we have chinks in our armor. So I learn every single office hours. Again, I'm there in a little bit more of a facilitatory capacity. Mike's the main facilitator, but I answer a lot of the questions. But I learn new stuff from my business every single week.
And you guys come with a lot of experience too, right? So both of you are business owners in your own right, or own multiple businesses. Share a little bit of the backgrounds or the stuff that you guys are bringing to the table.
Yeah. So my my story is really focused on from 21 to 27. I bought or founded 5 boring run-of-the-mill businesses. And I found that to be interesting because that particular piece, because when I say that, some people think, oh, he was in tech or something. No, I was retail florist and window tinting shop and just boring stuff. So we scaled them for the following 10 years and we've exited all but one of them. And now all I own is, other than Service Catalyst, is a window tinting business.
Yeah. And Mike, how about you?
For me, I had, I think 4 or 5 different businesses that just failed to launch. And our pet door business, we started with $800 between my wife and I. That was like what we had. And so my expertise really comes into that. If you want to start a business with nothing, this is how we're going to do it. The guerrilla marketing, figuring out how to learn these things on your own. And that's how our businesses have started. So.
Yeah. Well, and Tim, at our first episode that you were on, you shared about a Facebook post that you found. And so Mike's the person who posted it. But if they didn't catch that previous episode, share that story of how you first met Mike.
It's May of 2023. I went back and found the post in word of mouth for a conference, actually. And it was something along the lines of, hey, I'm a new entrepreneur. Would any experienced entrepreneurs be willing to grab a beer with me? I have questions. And I was very busy at that point in my life. So I've actually gone back in my memory, like, why did I respond to that? Because I had so much going on. And I think it was back to what I said a moment ago about the authenticity and vulnerability.
Yeah.
And we went to Horse and Dragon Brewery in Fort Collins. A couple of days after that, I do recall pulling up and sitting in the parking lot and thinking, I'm wasting this dude's time. I've never helped anyone before. Yeah. Like, what do I have to offer? And I got through that imposter syndrome. Mike is a very organized individual. He had a list of questions. He asked me, I don't know, 8 or 10 questions probably. And quickly I realized, hey, I'd been through every one of those scenarios. I'd failed probably 4 times at each one. And now I had some answers and some resources of how to get past that. And so he was pretty amped by the end of it. I was pretty amped. Again, it's the first time I'd ever helped anyone. He texted me about a month later or so and was like, hey, I did everything you asked. That's the other thing I really appreciate about him is the follow through. I did everything you asked and I have a whole new set of questions. So that just kept happening informally. There wasn't any structure whatsoever. I don't know. A few months later, No-Co Pet Doors is growing, and a few months after that, profits are starting to come through. Then he's hiring his first employee, and we're putting systems in place. And 2 years later, it runs without his direct day-to-day involvement, and kind of caused us to step back and think of, like, how do we do this for other people? It was so fun, so rewarding for both of us. I learned so much along the way, and that right there was the genesis of Service Catalyst.
So Mike, take me into like when you're thinking about making that post and like what's business like, what's life like? Take me kind of into your world at that moment.
Sure. So I think at the point where I had posted that, I was doing the sales calls, the installs, all the customer service, trying to figure out the business side of it. It was our daughter was, a few months old at this point, maybe 6 months. And it was awful, frankly. It was very hustle cultures, got to be up at 5 and asleep by midnight. And I knew there had to be a better way. I knew there was a way to own and run a business that wasn't an 80, 90-hour work week. And if you know me, I have no shame. I'll ask questions. There's nothing off limits for me. And so I thought, this is a group of 30 or 40,000 people. It's like, there's got to be at least one person in here. And there was 2 people that responded. Tim was one of them, and he's the only person that followed through with it. And I remember sitting down, and it was like the whole entrepreneurship unlocked. And it started to grow very quickly. As soon as I started meeting with Tim and getting his insight, man, that bell curve just started going up. And
was it a place of like, I need to do this to survive? Like I'm at a place where I'm vulnerable enough to ask this question because it's like, I got to do something? Or is it really more of a place of curiosity that you were reaching out?
That's a really good question. Looking back on it, I really felt like entrepreneurship was where I was called in life.
Yeah.
And so it was very much, I mean, I had, 2 people to feed and 2 people relying on me. So it was like, I have to figure this out. I can go be a glazer somewhere else, but for what I want my life to be, this has to happen. So
then you make the post. Do you guys like research each other before you actually did the post? Like, are you clicking through the profiles and like, do I want to grab a beer? What was kind of the interim between after the post and the horse and dragon?
I didn't do any deep. I've never been asked.
No?
That's funny. Yeah, I did not do any. If you did, you probably found weird flower stories about me, and that was about all the content out there.
Ironically enough, I don't think I did.
Yeah.
I was just like, cool, this guy's willing to meet. Let's go.
Yeah.
How quick can we get together? So,
yeah.
So it was like, I mean, that whole meeting could have gone a lot of different ways. Obviously, Tim, you are who you are, and Michael, you are who you are, and it turned into this, which is, we're going to get into that soon, but it could have been anybody that you're meeting there. And Mike, do you feel like there's something to learn from everybody, or were you seeking out somebody with Tim's background and skill set to learn from?
I think someone with Tim's background was optimal, but one thing I learned very on is that there's always something to learn. With every failure, success, every single person, there's at least one thing you can learn from them. Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't have seen it as a loss had I met with anyone else, regardless of what their background was.
Yeah. Well, and then, so you kind of met each other under a mentor-mentee situation, and it's grown into being co-founders. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know who wants to take it, but somebody take us through that process where I felt I want to do business together, not just give you tips and advice from my business.
Yeah, I can tackle that one. One of my greatest strengths is identifying the right people that I need to surround myself with. It's been a complete story of my career. It has been surrounding myself with the right people and realizing that very, very quickly. So it didn't take me long to realize, oh, I'd really like to do business with him. Like the follow through, he was also taking my inputs and multiplying them to be greater than my own outputs. I learned so much. We installed some really important systems in my business from my helping him in looking at things in a different light. So it was very quick that I was like, it took a while to figure out what that looked like. Yeah. But it was 3 to 6 months in. I was like, it would be great to do business together.
Cool. And then was there a change of mindset, Mike, from being like, oh, Tim's one of my mentors to, hey, I'm like equally part of this kind of deal?
I will say Tim always, from the beginning, made me feel like an equal. So there is that mentor-mentee relationship, and I still feel that between us. But I've always felt like an equal. So when he had initially brought up the idea of, hey, let's blueprint what we've done and do this together, it was like, all right, I have to step my own game up. And it's that not necessarily competitive in that I have to be better, but it's like this person's going to operate at this level, so I need to find a way to operate at that same level.
So Tim, when you say like, it was really quick that he was somebody I wanted to work with, right? I think in the realm of networking or building partnerships, you have your eyes set on, man, that would be a great alliance, or I would love to get closer to that person. What steps did you take to foster that relationship and build that? Yeah,
so we did a small amount of business together pretty early on. Mike did some work for one of my companies, and so I do like to do that walk before we run. That wasn't intentionally like moving towards Service Catalyst, but you want to see how people operate. So that was the first step. Again, kind of unintentionally, the first step in that. But then for me, Service Catalyst was such an abstract idea. Like it took a long time, even after launch, to really know what it was and what it can be. So it started off as like a sounding board of sorts, and then it just kind of grew like, we can do this together, and we can kind of so I guess that's the process. It wasn't all that intentional outside of, hey, we want to bring this to other people.
Was it like, did you guys have like just an ongoing text thread, or like how did you guys stay in touch as you were continuing to build that?
Yeah, we after it became obvious that Service Catalyst was going to be a partnership, we started structuring, it was every other week meetings, or maybe monthly meetings, coffee, Edwards for a cigar, beer, something like that. We do have an ongoing text thread that, as the idea fleshed out, the activity increased significantly. Right. A lot on the weekends. I don't know, like Spiro Palmer Flowers is one of my mentors. He always taught me, like, take some time on the weekends for strategic thinking. So I do quite a bit of strategic thinking on the weekends. So Mike oftentimes would get just a machine gun of text messages on that. But that's how it went.
I'm curious how much both of you think like it was fate or luck versus it was intentionally that you guys found each other.
That's a great question.
My knee jerk is always luck on that. But honestly, when I look back at my career, it is littered. This success is littered with having the right people around me. So there's got to be some type of skill or fate or something like that in that. But my knee jerk is luck, but I don't think it's luck.
Yeah, I would say the same. There is a lot of luck. I feel very lucky that we had connected to begin with, and that we've gotten to this point.
Well, as entrepreneurs, you got to protect your time, your calendar, but also you don't want to miss opportunities as they're coming to you. So how would you advise somebody in that filter versus, maybe you don't see it through, or you just move on to the next appointment versus, hey, this one's worth taking the next step with?
Personally, I think a lot of it has to do with your gut. Yeah. What does your gut tell you? And you have to be willing to make that sacrifice of your time to know and to get that gut feeling. And we see entrepreneurs that like taking meetings every minute of every day. We see entrepreneurs who aren't taking any meetings at all. And there's pros and cons to both. I think if you have a structured way of taking meetings, it has to be within this box, and check these boxes for us to meet for any serious length of time is an effective way to filter that.
I think gut is the right answer. There are signals that you can watch for. Follow through being the easiest one. Like if they say they're going to do something and then they do it, then I'm more likely to push into that. But another signal is do they give value authentically and without qualification or reprise? And so I think there's ways to qualify, but at the end of the day, you really do need to trust your gut.
Yeah. Well, for me, it's fun because it's like you were generous with your time to take the appointment and freely give advice. And then Mike, you were generous enough to actually implement it and give feedback to Tim of like, hey, I did it, and I have more questions, which that for me, that would get my attention. If I have somebody who is like really in earnest working to implement strategies and took the advice and put the weight in it, wants to be successful. Yeah. I think there's some valuable networking there is like, how do you get on people's radar and those kind of things?
I think for network, and if we want to apply this to networking, which makes sense, is the follow through piece, man. If you say you're going to message them, if you say you're going to do this, that, or the other thing, you have to do it, and you have to do it on time. Otherwise, there's no way. Like I'm not going to trust to send my best clients to you. I think that follow through piece of you, and it's twofold, right? You have to control what comes out of your mouth. And so being intentional what comes out of your mouth and then following through on that, I think is really important.
So for people of Service Catalyst, the people that you're mentoring, and if you had one or two pieces of advice somebody's coming in, what would it be? If you had to boil it all down. I know I can come to office hours and get something good, but do you see some consistent themes?
Yeah, for sure. So we found that early cycle service business owners have a variety of problems that they're aware of. And we have a resource for almost every type of problem that you can come to Service Catalyst with. And frankly, if not, we'll build it for you. And that's kind of the tack that we're taking. And so we found that the people that have the most success spend a little bit of time looking through our resource library and finding one that meets a need. We have some ways when they're onboarded to point them in those directions, but finding a resource that you need and then implementing it is how people get the quickest value. We just had a member who's joined last week, and last Saturday he joined at 11 a.m. and he's a very high level executor. He texted me 2.5 hours later, said, "Hey, I found the resource on remarketing to your existing list. I have been starving for something like that.
Cool.
I've already signed up for Brevo, my preferred email marketing program, but it doesn't matter. Sent out a email blast to my 2,300 customers and booked 2 jobs off of it." This was 2.5 hours after joining the community.
Like, will you give me a testimonial for that?
Exactly right. So, other thoughts on that? What else do you see as common themes there?
I think for me, everybody or a lot of the members that come into our community, they come in like, I need more leads.
Yeah.
And from my experience, when we've dug into that, the leads are there, but there's not a follow-up system for getting them from lead to converted customer. And I would say that's one of the biggest things we've seen is like, yeah, you're getting the leads, but we need to do something with them. We need to create customers out of those leads. And I think the resource library is just, people get tremendous value out of it, whether you have questions about are the people working for you, they W-2 or 1099, and how do you differentiate that? The master class that Tim did is an overarching umbrella of entrepreneurship.
That's a good point. We spend a lot of time talking about, I don't want to hear you need more leads until you have a tight sales and follow-up process. That permeates from $100,000 business that there's multi-million-dollar revenue businesses that came into Service Catalyst without a proper sales and lead follow-up process. It's really critical.
Do you find that it's something that business owners know that they don't have a great process?
No.
They don't even know that they don't know, right? Okay.
It's really common to become aware of right around your first major revenue plateau. For a lot of service businesses, that's $1 million. But no, because a lot of them are doing it, right? Mm-hmm. So they're the ones doing the lead follow-ups. Like, oh yeah, I'm good at lead follow-ups. So, well, you didn't call that one back.
You're right. Sure.
Like, that one you left on red for 2 days, you know? Right. So no, they're not aware of it.
Do you guys find that you're able to do so much more together than you ever, if you had to build it on your own versus building it together? What do you think allows different things that you're able to accomplish because of your working together?
I think for me, in a lot of ways, Tim and I are very, very similar. And in many ways, we're two opposite ends of the spectrum. So we've had this debate between us. When you run a Facebook ad, do you do the instant form or do you send them to your website contact form? I am diehard contact form. Tim is diehard instant form. And then,
controversy. Yeah, it's so true.
And then a month ago, I set it up, and I'm like, one of our new ads. All right, I'll do the instant forms. We're getting leads out the wazoo, man, like qualified leads. So there's this collaboration where we both have a different point of view, and there's cross-pollination between our experiences that just, it really enriches. I don't think Service Catalyst would be anywhere near where it is now had I just had the idea and decided to start it.
So we bought Palmer Flowers when we were 27. So 110 employees at the time. I couldn't do it all myself. We were partially employee owned. So we had 35% of the business was owned by employees. And that's what taught me that I'd never want to do something on my own. Like I will probably never wholly own a business again, because if you choose the right partner, 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2, it doesn't equal 3, it can equal 100. So we have a pretty good cadence of meeting regularly, assigning tasks and tackling those tasks. And it allows for different perspectives in which multiply our efforts.
I totally see like 1 + 1 can equal 100, right? And amplify. But I also see a lot of entrepreneurs get stuck by like 1 + 1 equals -10. It's like they're spending more time in the relationship and it's not really going, it's just another thing to do. And it doesn't actually enhance. What would be the keys to making sure that it's something that amplifies versus something that's just sucking time?
There's a couple of keys for me. One is a moral alignment. So one of the biggest issues I see in partnerships is, you can be in different stages of life, different income, different whatever. If right and wrong aren't the same right and wrong, it's not going to work. So we see that a lot. The other thing is ambiguity. It's not that the operating agreement is going to cover every situation. In fact, it won't cover every situation, but you need to talk through and make sure you're on the same page on so many more things than most partnerships get to. How are we distributing the cash? How do we calculate we're distributing? When are we distributing the cash? What are the employee discounts or friends and family discounts? So I think just a lot more conversation. People get really excited about partnering and they go too fast on it.
Yeah. What about maybe not like I'm going into business together, but I'm teaming up with another business to do a joint marketing or collaboration of some kind. So do you feel like without the rigor of all the operating agreements, like it leaves them on the table? Like if it's a little bit less at stake just by a joint marketing, that people don't put as much into it?
Go ahead.
I would say people do, but I think that's a mistake.
Okay.
Because when you partner with somebody, if I send a lead to you, how you handle that lead directly reflects,
no doubt,
on me. Even if I do a great job in my business, I hand them off to you. And I think it is, say, lower stakes because you're not in a legal agreement together. But that connection, you have to be, like Tim said, on the same moral ground. You have to be of the same mind, treat your customers the same way.
Yeah, for sure.
How do you navigate those conversations so you're actually finding that out?
Google reviews, gut.
So you're like, you're not just taking their word, or you are taking their word. It is the gut, right? So
I'm trusting my word, right? Like, because and the other thing
that's interesting.
The other thing that I'm doing is I try and give them opportunities to fail. That sounds so negative, and I'm not a negative dude, but I do.
It's like a show me though.
Yeah. I'm gonna lob a couple softballs at you and kind of see what you do with them. I think that helps. The other issue I think you get in those shared marketing situations is they start equitable. Or you try and start them equitably, and then at a certain point they get out of equilibrium, and it's hard to keep it going from that perspective. So trying to foresee that.
Well, I think it's good advice. Hey, start small, see if there's good, and then scale up.
Yep.
Speaking of scaling, if you listen to like Eat Myth or work with you guys, like you got to bring in the right people and the right things. So, if you had to give advice to an entrepreneur who's looking to scale, what would be the main thing that you would advise them to do?
A big E-Myth guy. I don't hear it very often. Love the E-Myth. Okay. I think the first thing, I'll say one and you can say one. The first thing is you need so many more systems than you think you need before you start hiring people. You need a way for them to do the things that they're supposed to do. People's eyes glaze over when you say the word system, so let's not even say system. You need the right way to have a lead handled or to have a job scheduled down and documented before you start bringing people in.
I would largely agree. I think you should break it. You should break your business. Yeah. You should just put it through the ringer if you can have people role play calling you all day, see what that feels like, see where it's like, oh man, if I did have just this form on the website, I could eliminate. I think you got to break stuff. And I think you have to do that over and over and over again as an entrepreneur. It's better to do it yourself than scale, and then it breaks, and then you have so much more on the line.
The other thing we see from service businesses at the really early end of scaling, right, is they have 17 lead gen sources.
Sure.
And they're all 17 done poorly. Yeah. You have to have a source that your leads come from. You got to get really, really, really good at it before you branch out.
So when you're building systems, how would you advise a busy entrepreneur to spend the time? Is it time blocking during your week? Is it nights and weekends, or?
I'm a big fan of calendar blocking.
Okay.
I think working on your business, it sounds really sexy, right? It's really not. It's really like doing putting time in your calendar to do the things that your business needs to grow that isn't answering the phone or installing the next thing.
Does bite size help, or do you really need to allocate 8 hours a week, 10 hours a week, 20 hours a week to it?
I'm a big fan of 1 hour chunks, and as many of those as you can fit in your calendar. To this day, I do that on Monday mornings, try and fit as many 1 hour chunks as I can.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I was having a meeting with a high level exec in Fort Collins that I help out, and it was an accountability meeting this morning, and he was talking about that. He said, well, I have my calendar all blocked out for the week to do my things, my rocks, if you're an EOS person, but it's like the problem I keep having is I get busy and then the calendar block doesn't happen. So there's one small tweak you can put in that. He called it the zombie calendar blocks. This is brand new thing. So if I have a calendar block to do social media and I miss it because some other fire is going on, I don't just let that not happen. That calendar block moves forward into another slot in my schedule, and those things have to happen. So I think it's calendar blocking, but in a unique way.
So where are you putting your priorities to do it? Yeah.
I think along those lines, when it comes to figuring out those processes, setting that time to figure it out is great. I like to do it in the moment. I like to track. I reached a point where I could either spend money getting more leads, or I could figure out how to convert the leads I was already getting. And I started recording my voice on the sales calls and listening to it back. And my SOP for the office manager for my sales rep is created off of that. It's the cringiest thing you'll ever do, but it is probably the most valuable thing you'll ever do. Oh, yeah, I listen to myself talk my business out of so many sales, and it's just, shut up, man.
Yeah. Service Catalyst was founded on that idea of, hey, we're going to help you build systems. The reality is what you're talking about here of how do we get to the point where we can build a system is actually what we end up spending more of our time working through. Some of it's mindset based also. You need to have them be of the mind that you're the owner of the business, not the doer of the business.
Totally.
And then it can be done well without you doing it.
Yeah. Well, Mike and Tim, thanks for coming on the show and, sharing about your partnership and how you've made it strong, but also sharing about Service Catalyst and the environment you create where an entrepreneur can come and ask a question, grow together with somebody else who's trying to grow. If somebody's interested in Service Catalyst or taking you guys up for cigars or coffee or whatever, beers, how do they get a hold of you?
Yeah, for Service Catalyst, it's thecatalystcommunity.com. For me, LinkedIn is easiest for me, Tim Jordan, CO on LinkedIn. Love to connect. One really important thing for me about Service Catalyst is it was started by authentically helping other entrepreneur, and that's how we're getting the word out. So if you have a question about a system, I'll buy you a beer and we'll talk about it.
And try to beat the 3-hour timeline turnaround for your client. Yeah. Mike, how about you? How about can people get in touch with you?
Yeah. All of our social media is Service Catalyst. You can, Instagram is where I'm the most active. It's just Michael the Hungry. Also monitor that Service Catalyst there. And then just Michael Weant on LinkedIn.
Right on. Well, thanks for coming on the show, Tim. Thanks for coming back. And it's really super fun hearing about the story and how you guys have grown. So
Appreciate you having
Right, us. We'll see you around Northern Colorado. Thanks.
Yeah.
Hey all, thanks for watching. I love networking and building relationships with other Northern Colorado business leaders. So if you want to come meet some of these podcast guests, meet me, or meet some other amazing entrepreneurs in Northern Colorado, I would love to have you attend one of our next events. Go in the podcast description. There's a ways that you can see our upcoming schedule, and maybe you could be a future podcast guest as well. Thanks.